With that being said, we got clips galore for y'all today, folks. We're going to lead off here with our story of the day with Fox News reporter Jacqui Heinrich questioning John Kirby of the White House about a relationship with the Saudis, but also, do we have any intelligence that they're going to pull back more oil production coming up in the coming weeks here, as well as the fact that we are extremely low on diesel, and what the hell we're going to do about that, folks. As always, if you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, do it now. That being said, let's go roll into the tape.
John, the Saudis took a veiled shot at the administration for selling the country's emergency oil reserves and said that that decision may become a painful one in the next few months. Is there any indication that they plan to further cut production?
I'd have to refer you to them, Jacqui. I don't have insight into what their future decisions will or won't be. We did propose that they not make a decision right now and wait until the next scheduled meeting, which was very early next month. So we'll see what they end up doing at this next meeting.
Do you feel that the administration...
I think that's really interesting because there's almost a contradiction, and John Kirby very well could be telling the truth here. I think he's actually pretty good at answering people's questions, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he actually doesn't have any intelligence on this. But what I find interesting is, at one end, you're saying, well, we had intelligence before, we have communication, a good relationship with the Saudis, in air quotes for those that are listening, and we knew that they were going to decrease the production of oil, which is why they told them to, hey, hold off on it till after the midterms, so that in a nutshell, we don't get shellacked by the American public because they're going to be pissed because this is going to affect them at the pump, of which they're trying to spread this narrative that you're getting more relief at the pump. Look what Joe Biden's doing, when in actuality, he's not doing anything. And then you're going to come out and say, well, we don't really know what's going on. We don't know what their decision-making process is going to be. We do have conversations with them. So that's where I find it a little bit fuzzy here. Again, on one end, you had conversations, you knew what they were going to do. And on the other end, now you don't know what they're going to do coming their next meeting. So was there cut ties with the relationship? Are the Saudis not liking Joe Biden? Would that be more evidence to support what was the news article the other day, where the Saudis are literally making fun of Joe Biden behind his back and making fun of his mental stability? So I don't know. It doesn't look good. It makes you wonder if our diplomacy is kind of going down the hill, and as well as our foreign policy. But let's continue.
Has sufficient insight into what foreign governments are going to do, given the reporting that the U.S. thought that there was a deal to boost production through the end of the year, that the decision from the Saudis and OPEC Plus came as a surprise and caused a bit of a meltdown in the West Wing. And your answer just now saying that, don't have insight into what they might be doing. Is that at all a failure of our diplomacy or foreign policy?
No, I mean, there's a lot there. First of all, we didn't have a meltdown. Secondly, while we can't predict perfectly what OPEC Plus is going to decide to do, we're not part of that cartel. It's not like we don't have ongoing discussions with the Saudis and with other members of OPEC. We do. And we try to get the best information we can. Obviously, they have to make the decisions that they're going to make. So we'll see where they go on this next meeting. What I can speak to is President Biden's priorities, and that's making sure that we continue to keep the price going down and to reduce the pain at the pump for the American people, and to try to do what we can in a measured, deliberate way to help better balance supply and demand inside the global market. And it is a global market, and I think that sometimes gets forgotten.
It doesn't get forgotten, John. The thing is that the Biden administration is shooting themselves in the foot, and that we shouldn't have to be looking at it as a global market if we would just increase domestic oil production, stop pushing these campaign promises of wanting to rid fossil fuel, which Joe Biden did in fact do, and we did play that in our shorts as well as prior videos here in the Bald Brad Show. So if you would just stop shooting yourself in the foot, increase domestic oil production, remove that narrative of which scares oil companies on wanting to utilize some of those leases, make that investment in that oil drilling, whatever that's buying insurance, more permits, the hiring of staff. I mean, whatever it may be that goes into oil production, they don't want to do it because you're the administration and you literally said you want to remove them and just completely obliterate their business. So why would they want to increase domestic oil production here? Even if you did open the floodgates, what you have to do is in combination of your PR say, hey, you know what? We want to increase domestic oil production. We're going to get rid of a lot of the red tape. The environmental stuff's going to get removed as well. We want to have them almost have free reign so we can increase domestic oil production, so we're not relying on Venezuela, these dictatorships of which Joe Biden wants to go to. We're not relying on these Middle Eastern countries for oil where we can be self-sufficient. You're shooting yourself in the foot, and you don't need to, because America has the energy to be ultimately producing it itself and being self-sufficient.
What are we doing to increase the supply of diesel, given that the Energy Information Administration said as of October 14th, the U.S. only had about a 25-day supply? You have the Northeast and New York already rationing home heating oil. What are we doing to prepare for the winter and to ramp up supply of diesel?
I'll take the question on the diesel because I just don't have the data on that in front of me. So let me take that and we'll get back to you on that. But writ large, the president has been working very, very hard to make sure that we're that not only are we ready for fluctuations that could come, and of course the prices are going down, and we think that's important, but that we are also doing what we can to help our European friends and partners who are also going to be facing a long, cold winter. We have doubled our commitment. The commitment he made in March for natural gas exports to Europe, we've doubled that commitment in terms of actual, getting things over there, getting natural gas over there. And we are working with foreign suppliers of natural gas and oil to see if we can't help our European partners diversify their own storage and supplies. Many of them are, in fact, building up their storage capability here for the winter. Some are farther along than others, and we're working closely with them bilaterally and multilaterally to see what we can do to help that. But I will owe you a question on the diesel.
I'm actually really surprised that John Kirby doesn't have an answer there regarding the 25 days left of diesel in the supply, because this could actually hurt a lot of us and increase inflation even more because of the supply chain issues that are taking place. And with a lot of the freight having issues with obtaining diesel here, or potentially obtaining diesel, we could run into a massive problem here. And I also find it rich that he's talking about the Europeans. If you all recall, they were all laughing at Donald Trump when Donald Trump couldn't believe the deal they want to make with Russia and other countries for natural gas and for energy. And so now they're about to have a dark winter here. They're all screwed because of the decision making they've made in the past. And they were all laughing. I don't think they're laughing now, because it's going to be really, really cold based on the decision process that they have made. And this is kind of a theme that we see with those that tend to lean left, is that there are these environmentalists, rather than focusing on slowly over time transitioning, and I mean a long time transitioning away from fossil fuels. You have to do it right. You can't just rush this type of stuff. This is what happens when you make bad decisions and you rush a lot of things. You get caught with your tail between your legs, and now you got to deal with it. Furthermore, we still have Jacqui Heinrich here. Once John Kirby was off the podium answering questions, you got Karine Jean-Pierre here being asked about inflation in terms of, well, are we going to have a date on when this ends? Let's continue.
Thanks, Greg. You had just said that there are no plans to adjust the economic team after the midterms. So I just want to ask in a follow-up, can the administration then say when Americans can expect to feel relief from inflation? Is there a date they can look to?
So I will let the experts speak to that. I'm not going to get into when that's going to occur, right? But we have seen some relief over the past several months. We understand there's more work to be done. But look, the president has been laser focused on doing the work every day to lower costs for the American families, because he understands what inflation is doing to American workers, American families, and so he's going to continue that work. I just talked about gas prices. That has gone down about $1.25 a gallon.
Again, and you saw John Kirby do this. They're emphasizing and treating as gas prices going down is attributed to what Biden has been doing. But when gas prices go up, it's not Biden's doing. It's not Biden's fault. It's Putin's fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's the Republicans' fault. Hell, it's whoever they throw the dart at the board and it lands on is going to be, it's their fault. So taking credit on a positive here of gas prices going down, but when it's a negative, you just want to throw the problems at everybody else rather than taking responsibility for the problems of which you most likely created due to your policy. Let's continue.
For the past several days, it's going to continue to go down. That is saving American families about $130 per month. That matters. Last week, we talked about hearing aids. That's going to how we're lowering cost. Hearing aids cost about $3,000 a pair. What the president did last week is going to help, tens of millions of Americans. And that matters. The junk fees, going to give Americans a little bit more breathing room. So look, we understand that there's more work to do. We understand that families are being squeezed by what's happening currently with inflation. But again, we have seen some moderation. I believe we'll continue to see that. Don't want to get too much into the economist world, but because of the president's economic policies, we have made sure, the president has made sure that we don't leave anybody behind, that we have a strong labor market, that unemployment is at the lowest that it's been in 50 years, and that matters. And we should talk about that as well as acknowledging what American families are going through. I'm just going to, okay.
It's, folks, not a terrible job actually from Karine Jean-Pierre today. At least she gave a little bit of some emphasis in terms of what she was talking about rather than really just ultimately fully dodging questions. She gave some answers there, which you got to respect, folks. But it is interesting how Joe Biden's taking credit for certain things that he has nothing to do with. And if he does have something to do with it, again, when it's negatives, he doesn't want to take responsibility for it. It's everybody else's fault. He's supposedly doing everything he can and has been doing everything he can every single day because he's laser focused, as you just heard. But yet CPI's gone up. We're still at 8.2% inflation. Mortgage interest rates are hitting about 7% now. So everything is going up in price, which is always quite interesting because he wants to give relief to those that hold student debt by implementing the student loan debt forgiveness program so that when those people are out of debt and they go get a mortgage, of which comes from Karine Jean-Pierre in terms of, hey, since you removed this debt, now you can spend this money on a down payment on a house. Well, now when you go do that down payment and you have to take out a mortgage, the interest rate just went through the roof because of the inflation of which Joe Biden caused. So it's just a vicious cycle here. None of it makes sense. We've been dealing with this transition for literally 2 years now, which is why she can't give a date because we're still in a transition in their mind. We're still transitioning into what? Who the hell knows? What we've been seeing here on the Bald Brad Show is transitioning into a deeper recession because the Joe Biden administration just thinks that we're not in a recession at all. And how did they do that one? Well, they changed the terms of the rule of thumb of what a recession was, where you had 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. I understand, folks. I understand there's more involved into that, but it doesn't change the fact that there's a rule of thumb that we've stuck with for decades now, and that still fits into what Joe Biden has done. So we are in a tiny recession here. Could potentially get worse depending on how oil goes with the Saudis, how energy goes with Europe, how diesel prices go here in the next month or so. There could be a lot of changing around and maneuvers, and we'll see who Joe Biden blames next when it dips down into something bad. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.